Do not adjust your digital device. What you are about to see and hear may shock and appall you. Join our hosts as they encounter countless thrills, spills, chills, and hilarity as they explore the very weirdest in pop culture. The following media is so strange, so beyond the scope of what is normal, it will make you ask the question, why does this exist? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Why Does This Exist? I'm Chris.
And I'm Rob.
And we are joined by our special guest, Shaun, today. And he's going to get quite crazy. We have Crazy Shaun in the room today. Today we will be talking about the trading card game half of Yu-Gi-Oh! We last spoke about the anime portion of Yu-Gi-Oh! And just like the start of that whole franchise. And this week we are going to be discussing the other half, the trading card game, the crazy stuff that really goes on. And we have none other Crazy Shaun to present that stuff to you. Why is Shaun the expert? One, we didn't have money. Two, Shaun has been playing the game since its inception. Rob and I trailed off eventually and just like tried to come back to the game at various points, and it just became so complicated that we just ran away. Shaun has been a trooper the entire time and has been playing the game, has understood how
most of the game
works. Yes, so Shaun is not only an OG, Shaun is also a continuing player. His skill level, that's up to you to decide. But that's neither here nor there. Shaun also had a wall of manga, that which included the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, and it was quite glorious back in that old place, in the old DJ etc. Dungeon.
The Diet C crime scene room.
Yes, the Diet Scene crime room, the DJ etc. dungeon. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but let me just explain to you what we are. This is Why Does This Exist? We are a podcast that talks about the very weirdest in pop culture. I'm sure there are other podcasts like it. This one is mine, and that's all that it is. If you've listened to the show for any modicum of time, you know it's stupid and you know it's bad for you. And that's all I've got to say about that. You can find all of the things to give us money and all that other stuff at the bottom of in the YouTube descriptions, or just in the description in general. If you want to do it, that's great. You can hang out at the Discord server, and if you don't, well, then go fuck yourself. That's the news. Here's the weather. You are now about to witness the truth. You are now about to witness. Oh, botch!
Botchamania!
I was on a roll. You are now about to witness the true strength of street knowledge from a ragtag group of rogues. So let's get on with the goddamn show. It is 10:17 p.m. on a Tuesday night, and I have a concoction of Screwball peanut butter whiskey and Frangelico. So that means it's going to be a great night.
All right.
So let's talk about the trading card game.
Oh man,
Shaun, kick it off.
Back when it first started, if you put 34-year-old me now when it first came out, I probably would have slayed at it. But the thing was, I was a stupid kid. I didn't have much money. So here I am playing with starter decks with dog shit cards against people that actually made the Exodia deck work when it first came out. And then on top of all the other times that you would have only have had to seem to believe, situations so ridiculously stupid that only I could have found myself in them, between losing by one card 3 times in a row, having a fucking rainbow dragon and the illegal version of a Ra with combined 30,000 attack points on the field, and I still lost. There is an infinite number of ways in this freaking game to piss you off, but you'll always come back for more. And whenever you think it can get stupider and more complicated, it does.
Oh yeah. Because I knew that you played the game still all these years, every once in a while, and I've probably said this on the show, but every once in a while I go to the card store and I just buy whatever the latest pack of Yu-Gi-Oh is. I just buy
Yep.
one pack just to see what happened to the game, and I just laugh because the
Mm.
text continues to get smaller and there's more text on the card, and there's all these different, and the borders are all these different colors, and I'm like, I don't know what they do, and none of it makes any sense. And if you try to look at it, everything has become what has gone from like a normal game of cards has turned
To like
into,
freaking legal proceeding.
Yeah.
yeah, you might as well be a lawyer and like do this. Like I don't there's so much stuff to understand where like everything it all turns into like a turn one like mega combo deck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah,
like we're like
you don't even get to play
simple,
anymore.
no, like simple, like yeah, like it's pretty much it just starts out with like both players draw their respective hands. They look at each other and they say, "Do you have it? No. Do you have it? Yes. Okay, next game." And that's like you don't even play. And then the next game, it's the same thing. Do you have the
Jesus.
combo? No, I don't have the combo. Okay, I don't have the
Oh my
combo
god.
either. Now we can
I've
actually
never even
play.
heard of that.
Yeah. It's just
That
yeah.
is that is ridiculous. See, I've never even heard of that, and my jaw's already on the floor.
Yeah, they've had to emergency ban things like crazy, which
Yeah.
to commend the Konami Rules Committee or the
Uh,
Yu-Gi-Oh Rules Committee to commend them. At least they like try to nip the problem in the bud as soon as they can. But
Yeah.
the problem is the game is so broken at this point
They probably
that
have
yeah,
the
it's
like
largest ban list in the history of
it
card
doesn't,
games.
yeah, it doesn't matter. There's always an infinite ban list where like sometimes they have to like unban things to keep this other thing in check because they just banned the other thing that they thought was the problem, but now there's a new problem 20 minutes later because they were waiting for that problem to go away. It's like it's at this point like it at this point
it's a
like
complete clusterfuck.
yes, like
Yeah.
we'll put it to you this way: the best card in the game is not the 5 pieces of Exodia, where they're each respective limbs of this god. Where if you have them in your hand, you automatically win the game. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's the Pot of Greed. That is the best card in the game. All it does, you draw 2 cards. It has the least amount of text in the entire game, but it is the best card because of how broken every other deck is, where drawing an extra 2 cards is so game breaking because that will assemble whatever combo you have. If the difference between winning and losing is always going to be 2 cards, where that card is the problem, you have to redo the entire game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you have to
yeah,
like at this point they've jumped the shark so far and
many
so many
times.
times that it is impossible. Well, they haven't even jumped the shark; they've jumped the fucking shark dragon at this point because they took a shark monster and they took a polymerization and they fused it with a blue eyes white dragon. So now it's a great white blue eyes dragon. I don't know, and and they've jumped
And
over
they've flown
that.
over Sharknado.
Yes, and they've flown over that, and Sharknado doesn't hold a candle to this anymore. That's how high they've jumped. They're into the stratosphere, and like it's just such a mess that they would have to ban every single set from like 2008 to make the game somewhat playable again. And
Yeah,
just start
because
over.
Yeah.
like
They'd have to just scrap like the first like everything but the first 10 sets probably, and just be like, only this is legal. We'll reprint it into the ground so you can get it. Everything outside of that, tough shit. You can't play with those cards anymore. And that's that. But we are getting far, far too ahead of ourselves. So the
yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, obviously based off of the manga and everything like that, the manga, the show that we spoke about, it was a very simple game. You summoned a monster, then you set down your spell cards and your trap cards and things. Maybe if you had the right combination, you could fuse them into another one with the polymerization card. Pot of Greed, and half of the cards that are like banned or forbidden now or like restricted, they were all fair game because the game was fine at the time. And the reason
It
why
was
so
so
many
raw.
yeah, the reason why some of these like simple cards that did very basic things got banned was because the game got so complicated where they did like broken things. Like for
Yeah.
example, Monster Reborn is I believe that's banned now.
Yes, it is.
And
It's been banned for a while.
yeah,
Ugh.
all it did was like bring something from the graveyard to the battlefield, something very simple that every trading card game does. But they can't do that anymore because so many graveyard reliant decks emerged. I mean, at this point, every deck relies on the graveyard at some point for
Right.
something where just being
Yeah.
able to do that with no drawback at all, like that's the problem. Um, but yeah, I guess essentially, if you were a Magic player, the Power Nine were like where like it's like it's kind of the opposite problem as the Power Nine, where like the Power Nine were cards that were inherently very broken to begin with on purpose,
Yeah.
where like where because they were essentially the first chase cards, where these were not considered to be they were not considered to be like super strong. They weren't like Monster Reborn, Change of Heart. Yeah, that would be really good for a second, but like in other trading card games, there's so many cards that do that where like this wasn't so bad. But like it's almost like they became the power. Like okay, so like where Magic was the Power Nine on purpose, a lot of these cards became the Power Nine by accident.
Yeah, but just by virtue
Yeah.
of like the game changing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you
Um.
have like different versions of like Power Nines that work against other Power Nines and don't work against other Power Nines. And it gets even more confusing after that.
Right. To their credit, the game designers tried to create like in the next set, they saw that there was a problem in the meta. They would go out of their way to try to print a card in the next release or two that would deal with that problem so that it was less oppressive without having to ban it. And which I do appreciate that they really tried, but the problem with that was when you're trying to do one thing, you inadvertently create another problem with that card. So sure,
Yeah.
it makes one thing redundant, but now this other thing that they slapped on it now does something
Yeah.
else that like made something that was once unplayable like a monster finish.
Well,
So
and that's
Yeah.
why like stuff has
For
come off the ban list and then gone back on the ban list. Like people will figure out an immediate like way to exploit it when it comes back off the ban. Even if they think they fixed it, it's not really fixed.
yeah,
but and
I mean
also as an example,
over
like even with polymerization. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
no
But
continue.
now, yeah, even with polymerization now, you were originally only able to use it with two monsters that were already out in the field. Now
Right.
it's like the regular card is you can play it and fuse the two monsters in your hand because even back then it would be like a 1 in 1,000 chance you'd ever be able to fuse anything on the field.
Right.
Yeah, there were also just so few that almost nobody played a polymerization.
Yeah,
Because even, I mean, most of the time the polymerization monster was just okay or like
yeah,
stronger than like, what you had, but not anything that amazing. Where like sometimes it didn't even make sense to bother
yeah,
fusing anything
Really
because
blew
you'd have like less um you'd have less creatures on the field or less monsters.
when it
Where
first
like
released,
once you
honestly,
started getting polymerization monsters that like had an effect and did something,
well, yeah, the
that's where
effect
yeah,
people started
monsters.
playing more.
Because when it originally came out, when the first sets came out, really like Blue Eyes Ultimate was like, the polymerization. Like everyone wanted like the
Sure.
Blue Eyes Ultimate
yeah,
because it was pretty broken for that time period of Yu-Gi-Oh.
yeah,
Yeah,
It
it was either that or like the Black Skull Dragon. Those were really the only two. I mean,
right,
everyone liked to do the Baby Dragon Time Wizard Thousand Dragon thing just kind of, but like they kind of did that for shits and giggles. It was almost like
because of the anime. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it was almost like a meme thing. Like people just kind of were like, "Well, this is nice to have if I can do this," but I'm not really looking for that because you could just do the red eyes,
right?
or like a summoned skull, and it'd be easier to just get that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of like the early game of Yu-Gi-Oh was like everybody trying to just emulate the anime. Like everyone wanted to do
Yeah.
exactly what the anime, which didn't work because the anime did not follow the rules at
No,
all.
not even close.
It never did.
No.
No, not even close. I mean, like people have said that like the reason why like the Egyptian god cards had some of their effects is because they did that in the anime.
Right.
So they were just like, well, they did it in the show, so we have to kind of like make them do this.
Yeah.
But like, I'm sure they had very different designs in mind, and they were like, "Oh, damn it, they did it in the anime."
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happened for a few cards where they were like, "Wait, what? It does this?"
Yeah.
Like they already had the R&D, they had the original card design, they sent it off to the printing press, and then they saw the anime, and they were like, "Wait, Swords
Like,
of the
oh shit,
Revealed
we gotta do
Light
this
does."
again.
Yeah, they were probably like, "Wait, this does what now?" Well, so what? But the regular card is so much cooler. Yeah, well, it does that in the show. It does that in the show. Well, yeah, but this
Yes.
isn't the right card. This card does that in the show. Well, you got to change it. They made that card do that, and this card does that now. Well, what about this card? Well, that card, that card's okay. They didn't do anything with that one, but it's
Like they made
indestructible.
the
Don't worry
ball.
about it. He doesn't use it. Yeah, and then they were probably just like, well, just change everything. Just change the whole game. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what led to them creating all this broken shit where they're probably just like frustrated with the anime like beating them to things and like changing the rules of the cards they already designed, and they probably and like the lead designer probably just said, "You know what? Fuck it. If they want to do stupid broken shit in the show, I'll show them stupid broken shit."
Yeah.
Pretty much. And like to be totally honest, like I was actually kind of okay with like a XZs or XYZs and synchros
I
that
don't even know what
summons,
that
but
is.
anything after that, yeah, I can explain that in a bit. But
Yeah.
the but the two other ways of summoning shit that came later on, like link summoning and pendulum summoning, I'm
What
I
is
still
that?
even don't even know what the hell those even mean because they add extra spots and markings on the field, and with like link monsters, where you summon it on the field affects where you can summon other shit.
Wait,
There's
you
two
have to
extra
summon
monsters.
it in a wait. You have to summon things in a specific place?
Yeah, like there's actually two extra monster zones, like in between each player. Like each person can use one,
Like I
but then
get
like
where the
anything.
I get where the monsters go, and like there's specific designated zones for the monsters, the magic and trap cards, and the field cards. What, like you need a second zone for monsters too now? Or
Yeah,
it's
like
just
like those
anywhere
two.
on the field has to be specific to do a certain
Not
thing?
not always, just with like link monsters. But like the thing
Wait,
is, like these
not
two extra
always.
zones. Yeah. So case in point, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like those two extra zones are only for like special summon stuff. Like so,
They
say like
call
somehow you. Hmm?
they call it the extra zone?
Yeah.
They have nothing better to call it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or actually, I could be wrong, but yeah, you have to like link summon monsters there, and there's like 8 arrows on like each side of the card, and depending on like which arrow is like highlighted or whatnot, you can only do an effect on something facing that direction or like summon something there. It's
What?
freaking weird.
Very convoluted.
And then
It's like chess
and then
pieces?
you uh, s- uh you can kind of sort of in a way. And then you could link summon other link monsters onto your regular monster zones, and then you can summon shit in whatever other arrow they point. It
You
and
wait,
uh,
you can summon other link monsters depending on the arrow after you
yeah,
summon the first one?
yeah.
What?
And then there's pendulum monsters.
Yeah, what does that do? Let me explain something to the good people who have maybe not played Yu-Gi-Oh in a while. So the game that Rob and I first started, these are the types of monsters that they had when Rob and I had like played. There were the normal monsters, which are yellow, which have a yellow shading, the effect monsters, which have an orange shading, and the ritual monsters, which have a blue shading, and the fusion spell, which the fusion monsters, which are purple from the polymerization. And there were tokens sometimes, like um. These are the number of monsters that they have now. There is normal, effect, ritual, fusion. We've covered those. Then there's the contact fusion. I guess it works like a contact high. I'm not sure. Synchro monsters, which are white.
Yep.
Then there's the XYZ monsters, which are black. Stored in the extra decks, these two things. That's right, there's the extra decks. Then, I don't know what that is. Then there's the pendulum monsters, which Shaun just said. Then there's the link monster, which, yes, it's blue, but I know what you're thinking, but the ritual monster is blue. Well, no one plays the ritual monsters anymore, so the link monster is dark blue. Just to keep confusing you, and these are the ones that have the arrows, right?
Yeah. The link monster's got the arrows.
Great. And sometimes tokens. So those are all of the monsters that you can kind of summon, maybe. I guess. If you get to turn 1, you might be able to summon one of those things.
And now it gets even weirder with the pendulum monsters because they're like orange and like sort of green, like spells.
Yeah,
there's
green
two.
gradient. Oh boy.
Yeah, so in the spell and trap zones on the far left and the far right, there's like a red arrow and a blue arrow, right?
Oh my god.
If you want, you can play one of those monsters in one of those zones, and on the card,
it goes on top of the spell and trap zone.
Or
it's outside of the, or it's outside of the thing.
No, you play it in the spell and trap zone, just the spots on the far left and the far right.
Oh, for God's sakes!
And
for those who don't know, the spell cards are green. They can't be magic cards. They used to be called magic cards for like the first couple of sets, and that's one of the reasons why the original set boxes are worth as much as they are, because because after Spell Ruler, they could no longer call it a magic card or a magic zone or even Magic Ruler, which was the original name of that set, because Magic the Gathering, petty ass motherfuckers, had to sue them over using the word magic in a trading
Wizards
card
of the
game.
Coast.
Holy shit! I never knew that.
Yeah, Gary from the stand told me about that the last time,
Wow.
the other day. I will explain that in a little bit, but that happened. And so now your magic cards are called spell cards. They are green. The trap cards are purple. And now you have the pendulum monsters, which are also green and go in the spell and trap zone for some weird reason, but they're monsters. So more confusion. Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
because you can either
explain how these things work.
So you can either play them on the field like a regular monster, but they're also like effect monsters too, right? But they have a different effect based on if you play them on the field or if you play it in the spell and trap zone as a pendulum number thingy. And on the cards themselves, there's like an arrow going left and right. Each one has a number.
Okay, wait, what? There's a number?
Yeah.
So they have a number on the side of them.
On both sides of them, like one side's like a red arrow, one side's a blue arrow.
Okay.
And so if you get if you can play like two pendulum monsters like on each side of the field, and you have like other pendulum monsters that fall in between, like those that have like levels that fall in between those numbers, you can like special summon them there to special summon to the field, or all kinds of other weird convoluted shit that I still don't fully understand yet either.
Oh, for God's sakes. I'm looking at one of them. I don't even know if it's good. It's worth 28 cents for a near mint first edition. But it looks strong and the art is cool. I don't know. This is Astrograph Sorcerer. Is that any good?
I have no idea because there's like 15,000 cards now. So
What
it's
size is the font on? Is this font size 2?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh my god, you need a fucking magnifying glass to read these things. It's got a green
You
tint on
really
the
do.
bottom and an orange on the top. This is weird. Jesus.
Yep.
I don't even know what the hell this is. The thing, and then there's Beyond the Pendulum, which is something else. I don't know. There's so much shit. Uh, why is it written everywhere? This just looking at these things is making me nervous. I'm gonna have I'm getting all verklempt. I'm gonna have an aneurysm on my desk. It, I need another drink. Oh my god,
Yeah.
this is so many things. I am very nervous. Um, Jesus, how do you play this game, Sean?
I to be honest with I haven't even bothered trying to mess with the Lincoln Pendulum stuff yet because the last time I tried it I was like this is getting too convoluted and I'm just throwing my money away, so I just kind of walked away when I came across these
Yeah,
at first.
I feel like that's what ends up happening with Yu-Gi-Oh! Either you keep up with it to a point where it just gets too ridiculous for you, whatever that may be, or
Yeah.
you kind of just age out of it gradually, and then you
Yeah.
come back to it one day and you're just like, "Oh, I don't know what game this is anymore."
Yeah,
And
that's
then you just
exactly what
Yeah.
happened to me.
That's what happened to me. Well,
Yeah,
I used to go to Sean's house every couple of years. Like, I mean, I still
yeah.
buy the packs, like I said earlier, but I would go to Sean's house every like once in a while, and I would see that because of course Sean, like I knew that Sean like either had a deck out or two or somewhere, or he was trying to get me to play like whatever it was that he was into. So like
You missed out on a lot of cool shit, man.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
when we do, whenever we get to Pokemon, which will probably be next year at some point, because we like to do these things once a year to keep the people waiting. All two of the people listening, Deb and Alex. We'll just say that's who's listening, and and when we get to Pokemon, you could talk about everything from you could talk about the trading card game and also that because Sean plays that too. It's actually quite fun. He
Oh,
showed me how to play that a couple times, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
that was one of those
Um,
games that nobody knew how to play when it first came out. We all just fucking made up our own rules, basically.
yeah,
Then it turned out it was basically like the diet magic.
Yeah.
pretty much.
But
And then yeah, but like I would go to Sean's house every once in a while, and like it would like I would see that he had a couple of Yu-Gi-Oh decks, and I would just be like either curious, or he would just ask me to play because we couldn't really figure out what else to do.
mhm.
Um, so like so we would take out a couple of decks and we would play, and he would start doing things because like an idiot I didn't know how much the game had changed, so it'd be like, oh yeah, I could pick this game up, I could
Yeah.
just start
No.
playing again. No. And then I would look at it and I would be like, okay, I think I'm gonna play this and set this card here, and I think I'll play this. And then Sean's like, yeah, don't do that. And then I'm just like, wait, why? He's like, yeah, that's the wrong move. You want to wait to do that later, but it's a level 4 monster. Yeah, no, you need that when you get the graveyard. But nobody uses the graveyard. He's like, oh, they use the graveyard now. And I'm just like, what do you mean? And he's like, do you want to see? And I'm like, okay, I'll just end my turn then. Why bother? And then Sean would just be like, he would just be like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this and this, and he'd take like a 20-minute turn, and he'd basically do like some like Vegas like card tricks, and like
Pretty much.
he'd start shuffling a bunch of shit everywhere. He'd like he'd tap on a glass 3 times, and then magically there'd be a dove that pops out, and then he'd like do some other shit. He'd saw some woman in half. He'd come back, and then he automatically assembled a 5 card combo to beat me. I had no idea what happened, and
And the craziest thing was playing that for real. That's the only thing that would happen to me.
I guess I don't know. If you're telling me that you had the shitty deck, then like I'm amazed by what the shitty deck
Well,
can
that's
do.
yeah. It's like when you show up to like a legacy tournament with like just like a
Yeah,
regular like ass pre-built deck that you made, and then people are popping out with these obscene combos. Like the only like cheap deck that's like viable for legacy is like a burn deck basically, and it's like all
yeah.
in. But that's like all of Yu-Gi-Oh. It's just that.
And I actually did have a thing where I try to make decks that I could make them as best as I could, but also to be able to annoy my opponent as much as possible.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like
Because whenever they would get pissed off with like me taking like 20-minute turns, they some have slipped up.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a
It's definitely a
terrible
strategy.
strategy. It's definitely a strategy,
Yeah,
Cotton.
it's
Let's see
it's
if it
it's
pays
like
off.
it's like
By
throwing
the
three
way,
three fastballs
Sean,
and then a changeup.
yeah, by the way, Sean, I never asked, but is the woman that you saw in half that day okay? So
Uh,
do we know? Should we not talk about that on the air?
maybe,
Well,
maybe she's
you know what?
okay.
Let me just ask the question I should have asked. Did she have a family? Was there any link to the outside world? Did she have a name? Did you know what the name was? Was she even from this country? Did it matter?
Just
Did
randomly
she
came up and asked me to dance one day.
did she matter, Sean? Did she matter? This woman that you may or may not have sawed in half because that's what the card told you to do.
Maybe it mattered because maybe she's okay or maybe she's not okay.
Listen, he needed to put this thing into the extra deck. He couldn't do that without sawing a random person in half. And it wasn't going to be me. He was trying to show me how to play the game. Who would he play
It was
with?
worth it. It was worth it.
Well,
Yep.
anyway.
I basically have a similar story where, I played Yu-Gi-Oh when it first came out, and had like all the structure decks. I had the Yugi structure deck, and then I didn't get the Kaiba one. I had the regular basic Kaiba deck. But then like the Pegasus structure deck came out and everyone wanted that, so it's like, I had to have that. So I played for a couple of years, but then my uncle's like, "Hey, try this," and he introduced me to Magic the Gathering, and I like was like, "Oh, I like this better," and so I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh. And I didn't stop completely though, because I would play on like I'd play the video games a lot. So I played obviously Yu-Gi-Oh Forbidden Memories, which was fucking awesome.
That's still
Even
amazing.
though it did not follow the rules of the card
It,
game
it,
at
it
all.
made
No,
no sense when I
it
first played it.
No,
it
it
followed
did
it
made no
followed the
sense, but
rules
it was fun as fuck.
it followed the rules of the TV show, and that was like
Yes.
perfect.
But even had its
Like
own rules, like with the friggin' the
Oh
like
yeah, the
fucking
polymerization
playing in
astrology signs and shit.
yeah, you
and like playing an attack mode face down.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you also did not need polymerization at all. It
Yeah, you
was
could just
just like
combine random cards and then it would make new cards.
Oh
yeah,
my
like you
god.
could you could combine your whole hand just to see what it would do.
Yeah.
I've actually never played that one.
Oh,
Oh
it
my,
was so good.
it's the first one.
It was on PS1. It was amazing. And then like you're like back in time, like in the ancient Egyptian times. Like it was like a whole
Yeah,
story. It was really good.
I
it
I
was
think I
really
played it
cool.
briefly when I played with my cousin, but I didn't remember much more than that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean the coolest part about that was once you beat someone in the game in like the campaign mode, you could like go and like verse them in just like an exhibition mode,
yeah,
and like they would ante up a card of theirs, so you could like keep farming them to get their best card. So like if you and like that's how you would level up in the game basically. So if you like, because it gets really ridiculous later on in the game with
Yeah,
like
I can imagine it does.
when you get to like the final boss people.
you pretty much needed the Black Meteor Dragon to win.
Yeah, that's like, so which means you needed a red eyes black dragon and a
Yeah,
summoned skull at least. Um and like and what you did, like, so basically you would keep playing Joey over and over and over again until you got several red eyes black dragons to put in the deck, and
yeah,
then you would play whom I guess you would play Yugi to get like as much as you could like until you got a summoned skull. Now you would get plenty of dark magicians, and that worked for a while. But since you had the polymerization thing, where all you could do was just fuse every single thing in your deck until you kept getting like a very strong monster, you would just spam the fusion thing and summon whatever monster you got at the end.
Yeah.
So like you pretty much were like gunning for a twin-headed thunder dragon every single turn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and after a while, you'd be pretty flawless with that. So you could coast on twin-headed thunder dragons for like a hot minute on that game. For like I would say like 75% of the game, you're
Yeah.
coasting on twin-headed thunder dragons.
Yeah.
With no polymerization, by the way, with monsters
Yeah.
that do not make the twin-headed thunder dragon.
Yes. But they eventually fixed that. Like there was the Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Edition, I think it was called, on Game Boy Advance, which actually followed the real rules of the card game. Like it was
Yeah.
based, like the
I played
storyline was
those.
based on the show, but you actually had to play the game correctly. But then they had like some wacky ones, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists of the Roses, which was like
Oh yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
It,
that one's terrible.
no, I liked it because it actually added like a strategy element to it. Like you could actually move your cards around on the board,
Oh, I
and like
hated it.
terrain
I
mattered.
hated that game.
That was so confusing.
It was almost like they combined dungeon dice monsters with Yu-Gi-Oh! The card
That's
Oh,
game.
probably why
which
you. That's probably why you
oh,
liked it.
Yeah.
we, I miss Dungeon Dice and Monsters so much, but that's not why we're here.
Yeah, I actually
Well,
mentioned that the last time. Like I was like, I wish I actually made that in real life, and then I learned that they actually did make a video game based on the Dungeon Dice Monsters episode.
Uh,
So, but I don't think they ever released the actual like tabletop version of Dungeon Dice Monsters.
they
they should have.
they
That
did.
was a bit.
They did. I had it. They
Oh, they
did.
did.
Really?
So that,
Yeah.
see, I didn't know that.
Huh? Was
But like
it
virtually
fun?
nobody played it except it was awesome, but like literally nobody played it except me.
That sucks.
Wow.
If
Okay.
I had known it existed, I would have fucking played it. That was like,
It was so good.
yeah, that episode was like the shit, and I was like, oh wow, that would be cool if they actually made this in real life. But it probably
It
came
was
out
so
after I
spot
had
on.
stopped, after I like
Oh yeah,
moved
they
on.
made a video game. It seems like they made a video game for the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, they did
And
make a video game.
yeah, and
I might actually get it just to scratch the itch because I've always wanted to play it again.
let me see how much the tabletop goes for.
Probably a lot.
I'm
I
sure
think
it's
they're
out
pretty
of
rare
print
now.
now, so I'm sure it's
Well,
ridiculous.
no, it's very out of
Definitely.
print. I mean, it probably was like a total flop, but it
Yeah,
would have been
it
really
really
good.
was.
Oh, you know what? I do remember. You know what? I do remember seeing some of these monsters on the shelf. Yes, I do remember this.
I will say too, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh,
Growing up,
it's actually not that much. It's some guy's trying to like sell it for $65.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was
Not so bad.
probably the number one fucking bootlegged like trading card game. I mean, Pokemon was pretty bad too, but there was like actually a local store in my town growing up that sold nothing but bootleg cards. So they had bootleg Yu-Gi-Oh cards, bootleg freaking Pokemon cards, and he sold them in packs for like $10, like they were
Yeah,
real.
yeah.
Uh,
I
it was
I
bad.
remember we used to go to Wildwood every summer for like years. And on the boardwalk in like the Jersey Shore, they sold bootlegs of Yu-Gi-Oh stuff like crazy. And I
Oh
Oh
yeah,
remember
yeah,
like I
yeah.
didn't know, and my dad didn't know. I remember like, I asked my dad to buy me this thing and it was like $40 or something like that. And I get home to find out that they were all bootleg. And
yeah.
I didn't, but I mean, I didn't give a shit because me and my friends were going to play with the bootleg cards anyway.
Well, yeah, that's what me and my friends did too. We just played
Yeah.
with the bootlegs. We didn't care.
But I mean, sorry, Dad, you got, and it's my fault. But like, we still had fun with it, and also we were
Yeah.
just like, how like there's no other way for us to get the obelisk, like all of the
Yeah,
Egyptian
the
god
Egyptian
cards.
Like the
god
god
cards, they were
cards.
like the biggest bootlegged ones there were.
I mean, I will say, like, at least when you bought the bootleg structure deck, you got every like game breaking card at the time.
Yeah.
Like you were guaranteed a red. Like we were just like opening this and we were like, wow, this is better than buying a real anything. Like, keep making the bootleg shit. No, because it was ridiculous. You would open a bootleg thing, you would get the 5 pieces of Exodia, you would get the Egyptian gods, you would get the Relinquish and everything, you would get, like, the red eyes and, like, a summon skull, and you would just be like, "Wow, like, this really gives you everything," and you wouldn't even bother reading the text because the text, like, didn't even do the same thing as the real card does, but you
Yeah.
didn't care because you were like, "Well, I don't care. I still got my Red Eyes Black Dragon, and this one does all these other things that don't even make any sense." I'm pretty sure they had typos everywhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it was probably made by a bunch of 7-year-olds who didn't know how to read anyway. Like, very sad, but also very profitable. And it made me happy, which I guess is all that counts in this version of my story. What I'm telling everyone listening is that I'm the bad guy,
Yeah.
and at least I admit it.
Huh.
But yeah, this was like a heavily bootleg game.
Yep.
I don't know if there was like
Oh, I forgot. I forgot. I got so sidetracked with my friggin' story about the video games too. So I went back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Like years and years later. I was at a party when I was in college, and I was at my friend's house for his birthday party, and it was like a 90s themed party. So we like all brought like Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards and Pokemon cards and shit.
I
And I
love how
remember,
that's your like thought of like, oh, this is 90s.
yeah, well, it was. It was like
It was.
we were all
Yeah.
wearing like flannel or fucking denim fucking shit. Like, so I
But you all
I
thought to bring that instead of your Nirvana CDs.
yeah. So I
Oh,
faced my one friend in Yu-Gi-Oh, and he still played, so he was playing with a modern deck. And I remember he like at one point he's like, I'm just like I could like literally kill you right now, but I'm not gonna do that. I want to see what happens. He just wanted to see like what like if I'd be able to even do any damage to him, which I was not able to. He basically crushed me. Uh but he's like,
oh man.
it was like I couldn't even, and I was using my best deck. It was like my Yugi structure deck. I had like everything. I had the freaking Dark Magician. I had the fucking the Black Chaos Mage or whatever. Like I had all of them, and like the whole summon for it and stuff like that. And I didn't stand a chance.
I just found my Lightsworn deck in my Thwomp deck box, and uh, even for me, I actually used to do pretty good with this, but 10 years later, it's probably dog shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was for the sake of this show, I downloaded the Master Duel game for the Switch, and I was trying to just learn anything somewhat modern, and I barely got past the tutorial. I'm playing like some of like the single player things, and
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of getting the hang. I'm kind of getting idea of what some of the decks can do. They all do something. They can't win without a graveyard shenanigan. They all have to do something in the graveyard, regardless of if that's the main strategy or not. You have to just get the plan is pretty much just shoot your best stuff into the graveyard and get it out before turn 2, and then you will probably win.
Yeah.
And then maybe you could summon something from like the extra deck somewhere. But like that's pretty much the goal, is to just shoot everything into the graveyard and resurrect it before like the other person gets the chance to do the same thing. Um or actually you don't even have to get into the graveyard. You can exile it too or banish it, and then it doesn't even matter if it's banished because you can bring it back when you put something else into the graveyard, and then you could put your most powerful monster from the banishment back into the deck so that you can shoot it back into the graveyard, but you needed to banish it first, and then you had to do some other thing, and then you have to do a synchro thing after you have like 3 of these things, but then it's okay because you sacrifice the 3 of them to get the synchro, which is like an ultra fusion that you just sacrifice shit at any time, and then you could just use it. But then you can resurrect everything that you sacrificed anyway. So now you have your 5 best things on turn 1, and if the other person can't do anything about it, then that's it. It's like it's pretty freaking crazy. So like I'm learning like even the computer who is on level 2, by the way. I don't know what the maximum level is, but they're either like they're kind of hard, which means I really suck at this game. But oh my gosh, I do remember that like so one of the reasons why I stopped playing Yu-Gi-Oh was not because I aged out of it, but well, I don't know how it was where you were, Rob, but
Mm.
where we were, thievery was rampant for Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, there
Oh
wasn't
yeah.
that much. It wasn't that bad by me.
Oh no, by us it was all a den of thieves.
Yeah.
People would steal cards left and right. There
Yep.
was like a syndicate. And then I would find out later that the orchestrator of this whole thing was somebody who I thought was my friend that I was playing with, but he really wanted some of the cards that I want because that I had because at this point in time, this was like Yu-Gi-Oh cards at this point, many things are overprinted to such a degree that the only cards that are worth any money are just variants of something that like appeared in like a tin or a movie release or a very limited time of something, even though something else has been reprinted with different artwork for a different set. It's the same exact card, but the card for the current, but that version for the current set is worth like 30 cents at best because it's printed so heavily. But the special tin version for the like whatever it is worth like $75. Like it's crazy. Um but I had got but like that there was so much rampant thievery in that Yu-Gi-Oh community in Brooklyn, New York, which
Plays King's Games.
yes, King's Games and all the people from King's Games are a bunch of assholes. Even the people who work there are dicks. And I'm not even saying this like as like a bitter person who was butthurt that their Mirror Force magical cylinders and Jinzo got stolen in the same night. When these cards used to be worth $30 a pop, this was or net, like now they're all worth like 25 cents. If you're lucky, they're a dollar. I
Mm.
will say that
Yeah.
to get into Yu-Gi-Oh and to start playing, it's probably fairly cheap to get into it. But it's just such a complicated game that like at this
Yeah.
point, why would you? Unless you're like a
And
mathematician, I'm not even sure why, or you just hate yourself. It's like, okay, well, I'll either pour hot wax on my genitalia or I'll play Yu-Gi-Oh. I guess, well, I'm not really sure which one's worse.
if
Well,
you happen
if
to like
you
see them,
if you feel like getting your if you feel like putting your pants on or like or just you just don't have any like wax or a candle in the area, then I guess you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh tonight. But most people would probably go for the wax. Um, but
guys, drink one
I
for
di-
me. I'm about to try a pendulum deck.
but I digress. Oh, that's bad. It's probably bad. Okay. So anyway, so people would just steal all the time, and I'm not saying that I was an angel. I stole shit too. We all stole shit from other people. Anytime anyone has said, look at like, can I look at your deck? You can hold my cards too, just to
Hmm.
like so you could trust me. That was just that was whatever that was the line everybody used. And
Mhm.
it worked on everybody. Even if you did it, it worked on you too, because you were like, oh, they know I'm not gonna do that. Or they would be like, oh,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna steal this guy's cards. This guy looks like they know what they're doing. And then they would be the one to steal your cards, or you would steal their cards. But and then there would be like a whole back and forth because they gave your card to somebody else already, and then they would be like, "Hey, this guy stole my card." Meanwhile, they stole half your shit. It was like,
Yep.
oh my god, everybody stole cards from everybody, and it was like the worst possible environment ever. Mind you, we were all like 10, 11. Some of these kids, a
Yeah.
lot of these kids who were stealing were like 17, 18 years old, stealing from like 11 to 12-year-olds. Not saying that the 11, 12-year-olds were innocent, because they weren't. They were doing the shit too. But oh my god, God forbid God forbid you were the innocent kid who had good cards, don't ever come
Me.
back. Yeah. You were one of the few people who like just got ripped off constantly, but you weren't doing any stealing yourself. By the time when it happened to me, I was like, okay, this really sucks. I'm not doing this again. But I also was like, I have no means of getting a magical cylinders again. I have no means of getting like another mirror force. I have no means of getting another whatever. Like, I'm just not going to play this game anymore.
Yeah.
So that was the way that that was that's twofold of why I left Yu-Gi-Oh. The first part was the stealing. The second part was I played up until Invasion up until I think Legacy of Darkness was the last set that I played because I had a really cool fiend deck at the time. Like even after the thievery, I didn't worry too much about it because I managed to get another Jinzo, and I was just like, all right, sucks that I don't have Mirror Force. It sucks that I don't have Magical Cylinders, but not a big deal. I have Jinzo. Jinzo shuts off trap cards anyway. So, and he was a fiend, and Summon Skull is my favorite card of all time. So, I actually I had no. I'm sorry. Summon Skull is my favorite, and Dark Ruler Hadez is also my second favorite. I had a like fiend deck with like them and Dark Necrofear and all that cool stuff, Vampire Lord and everything, and like I had a really cool fiend deck. I've always liked demons and like evil things like that, so like the fiend deck was like perfect for me, and that was like my jam. Um, but then the Yatagaratsu lock came out and like the infinite combo thing
Yeah.
started happening.
Yeah.
Like this is
I
the point
love
where
that.
this is one of the points where the game starts to get broken
To get
because they
broken.
printed and this is just how every game is starting. This is just how every game
Yada lock.
naturally is going to get. Eventually there will be a two-card combo that is unintentionally printed. Sometimes it's in the same set, sometimes it's not. This happened to be, I believe, the former, where you had Yatagaratsu and you had Injection Fairy Lily, two secret rares. Now, I will say with the Yu-Gi-Ohs, with Yu-Gi-Oh, their
Oh,
foiling, the foiling of their cards is spectacular. Beautiful foiling with these things. The best foiling possible. Everything looks awesome with their
Yeah.
foiling process, whatever it is that they use. But
yeah.
they had the weird rarity order. So there was the commons, then there was the uncommons, which you had the little silvery thing in the, which was always nice to see on the lettering.
Yeah.
It was always just like a nice touch. You didn't have to do that. Thank you. And then you would start getting into your rares, and the rares had different kinds of foiling. You got your what was it? Your regular rare, your ultra rare, your secret rare, I think,
Super
right? Or was
rare.
it? That's right. There was
There
a
was
super
super
rare.
rare too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they all had different types of foiling, so you knew what kind it was. And the secret rare is this beautiful shimmer to it. And the secret rare cards were, of course, the most pushed cards in the set, or the most powerful cards in the set. Or eventually they became that way. Some of them were
Yeah.
just cool because it was like what like in Spell Ruler you got Relinquished and Thousand Eyes Restrict. It was like, whoa, it's that card from the show,
Yeah.
right?
Me
And
and
then
me and
we're like,
Connor actually got that on each other.
oh, that's awesome.
And it never actually did the actual like what it was on the show. It wasn't nearly
No,
as
very
good.
different.
Of course.
I think Thousand Eyes Restrict got better eventually, and then it became like it like for a little while. I think it was like a big deal,
Yeah.
but I don't think it lasted very long. But anyway, I believe Legacy of Darkness comes out, and I have this Fiend deck, and then you also get the Yada Lock, which is the first two-card combo in the game. And then you also get Injection Fairy Lily, which is like doesn't seem like a problem at face value, and then when people figured out like just like the best way to use it in combination with the Yatagaratsu, they were like, "Oh, you're dead." Like so, those two secret rares, you would just if you had both of them, the other person was dead. So the Yada Lock combo, I don't exactly remember entirely. I think when Yatagaratsu, like Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the
Yeah.
Yada combo was you would have a Yada for turn one, when it couldn't attack, and then you would have an Injection Fairy Lily on turn 2, and you would attack with both of them. You would pump the Fairy Lily and pay your life points to like turn into like a 3,000. And the
Yeah.
Yata when the Yata hit, if Yata did combo damage, it wasn't very strong, but if it did combat damage, then the
Your opponent can't
Yata
draw the next turn.
yes, they can't draw. So if they already don't have an answer, they're screwed. And then the
And
next
then
turn, you would
at
just
the end of
pay
the
the
turn, it
life
comes back.
points. Yes, and then it returns back to your hand. That's what it did.
Yeah. Yeah, it
And
was
then
like a
you'd
spirit
start it.
card.
Yeah, and then you'd start it up the following. You just have the Lily out, ready to like just pump and pay the life points. And then they couldn't draw anyway. So whatever they had in their hand, if they couldn't do
Was
anything at that
useless.
point, was useless. So people would just everyone had a Yatagarasu. Everybody had this combo. So they would just be like, "You got it? No. Do you have it? Yeah. All right, next game." And that was it. If you had a Yata mirror match, God forbid, that was the match. It was, "Do you have it? No. Do you have it? Yes. Can you show it? Show it to me. Here we go. Okay, that's all I needed to know. Let's try to play Yu-Gi-Oh next time." And that was it. You would have like a 5-minute game. Like people would drive hours to go to like a tournament or something. Let's say you live in some like godforsaken place like Madison, Wisconsin, and you drive down to the convention center only to play about 20 minutes of total playtime, and the rest and that whole playtime is just asking someone if they have a specific card in their hand on turn 1.
Yeah.
They had to ban that. I think that was the first. I think that was the first banned card.
No, I mean
I
Monster Reborn and
Was Monster
Change of
Reborn
Heart
banned before that?
they were banned a long time ago.
don't think so.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
can't remember when.
And Pot of Greed too, because people would do the Pot of Greed. They'd have this ridiculous combo where they would instantly get exit Exodia
Oh,
on,
that's right.
on the first turn.
Yeah, because
So
you had to fish for Exodia or tutor Exodia. They tried, so the maximum number of cards that you can have in a deck is 3, and then they would occasionally and like if a card started to get too good, they would normally restrict it to just 1, so that
Right.
if like in
Or maybe
theory,
2.
yeah, 1 or 2. So in theory, if you had less of a chance to draw this card out of a 40 card deck, then you were less likely to come to like to get that big of an advantage. But after a while, the game became so crazy that even just getting one of this card is a significant advantage in any matchup, where they had to just ban the card.
Yeah.
So, like we said, Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards. Doesn't sound like a problem. Game got so crazy it became a problem.
Pretty much. So,
I mean, has there been, Sean? Is there any card from the original like 6 or 7 sets that still sees play anymore? Or has this basically become Guns N' Roses at this point? Or like Napalm Death, really, where there's no original members?
yeah, most of them are pretty much gone, except for like different versions of like I don't know, like a Dark Magician or shit like that, or maybe uh, Blackluster Soldier. Like, well, yeah, a couple of those may see some use, but they're not really all that common.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from what I was like gathering from when I was just playing like Master Duel, is just you will see like just variations that do certain things, and like there's a million different variations of like the original monsters, but it's not the actual original monster. Like you won't say like a vanilla
Yeah,
you won't see a vanilla Dark Magician, although I have seen recently that like the Blue Eyes White Dragon has been making a comeback, like just the
yeah.
original one for some reason. Um, I don't really know what that's about, but I think they're like I think there's like a Blue Eyes Link monster that
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why.
yeah. There is.
I mean, outside of Exodia, there have been like other like alternative win cons, but even those don't really see play, like the Destiny board,
Yeah.
which seemed like a really cool
Oh
idea
yeah,
at first, but it like but a lot but like it ended up not being like as good as people hoped that it was.
yeah. In fact, it was pretty crappy. You just destroy
Yeah.
like one of those cars, you're screwed.
Yeah, the whole thing is gone. So it's like not even really like worth it. If you could kill one at a time, then that would be great, but then it would be like then it would just be too easy. So I appreciate that they had the challenge, but getting rid of all of them like is really what killed that whole thing. Um and I mean the Exodia deck doesn't really see play too much anymore because it's all about just like trying to tutor up. It's like maybe you'll see a fringe pop up here and there, but it usually doesn't really like go that far. Um
Yeah.
I will
Yeah,
say that like unlike Magic who did their who now does their anniversaries wrong and tries to like price gouge like their customer base with their 30th anniversary bullshit. Yu-Gi-Oh does anniversaries right.
Yeah.
Like for example, for the 25th anniversary in 2023, I believe, they chose to re-release I like the first four sets, and I think two others that aren't
Yeah. I think I remember
connected
seeing that.
directly. There's
I
like
do remember
five.
seeing that.
There's 5 or 6 total,
mm,
but the first four sets, which are probably like the most iconic sets, because that set the groundwork for the game, and also you got all the way to your fusion monsters there. I mean, you got all the way to your ritual monsters. That was like where that cuts off. Um, and you got your first couple of boogeymen in the format too. Like Jinzo, I think was the first real boogeyman
yeah.
Yeah.
because he shut off all your everybody's trap cards.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember Jinzo was one of the few cards that I had in my deck that my friend was like, "Oh, Jinzo's actually still used and is still good."
yeah, at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so they released those sets. They re-released those sets. Anyone could just buy a box in a store and relive that experience and open the packs, and they had a special 25th anniversary stamp on them. You can still get them. They've like and like the kicker on this, they were not overpriced. They were not $1,000 fucking. They
Yeah.
were not like they weren't they weren't even priced twice as much. They could have charged $100 for these things. They could have even charged they could have charged a lot more money for this, but instead they were at the regular MSRP. Like they were at $50 a box. They've like some of them have increased in value, others have held their value, and like you're looking like because like Blue Eyes is getting popular again. You're seeing Legend of Blue Eyes 25th anniversary like creep up in price to like $100 or something close to that. But like even still, if that was the MSRP, like I nobody would have been it would not have been a big deal for the 25th anniversary release. Like they
Yeah.
did this right, and like they made it a nice commemorative thing. They didn't try to like they didn't basically they didn't try to like spit in their fans' mouths.
Yeah.
This was like a nice thank you. They like I bought one. I recently bought a spell ruler set. Like I bought a spell ruler box. It's sitting right there. It's sitting right there in my little like happy corner of like, just my stuff. Um and it's got like I bought that and I bought a from the vault like a magic from the vault lore
Mhm.
from the stand. So the stand, Sean will tell you this too. The stand was this well, now was as of this month was this little hole in the wall mom and pop hobby trading card game
Trainer Game
local
Shop,
card store.
comics.
Yeah, every like it just had everything. I wanted to show you this store like for years,
Wait,
Rob, and it's
oh
too
Yeah.
yeah,
bad
that's
that you
right.
never
Someone,
came
right?
down. He chose the owner of the store, Gary. I don't know what his last name is. I never asked.
I
Gary.
think it was
Gary from
Nordham.
it. Oh, I don't know.
Gary from the
From
stand.
yeah, Gary from the stand. He chose to close. He chose to retire on his own merit and close the store for good. He is retired to his home in, well, I know where it is, but I won't tell anyone on the show because creeps exist. But and I would like the man to live out his days in peace, love, and harmony, and to not be bombarded with strange people. But Gary's a wonderful soul, and he owned that store on Neck Road for about, oh, I don't know, 30 something years maybe.
Yeah.
Sean and I have been going to that store since we were like 10, 11 years old, to get our
Yep.
asses kicked in cards.
Yeah. Every
Um,
single time.
every single time by people who were 4 times our age. Not even kidding. This was my
Yeah.
first
Yeah. We're serious.
this was my first experience at the stand.
Yeah.
I was 10 years
Yeah.
I was 11 years old. I wanted to go play Yu-Gi-Oh. I found out that there was a card store called The Stand and I could play other people outside of my regular friend group and I thought, "Wow, I've beaten all my friends. I'm good enough to enter a tournament." And
Wrong.
dead wrong. So I go in there. My dad of course takes me because how else am I going to get there at 11? Takes me to the store. He's looking around. He thinks the comic books are cool. He's talking to the guy. He's talking to Gary, and he talks to. And then like someone, like some like 40-year-old gentleman turns to him, and just goes, "Oh, what deck did you bring?" And my dad's like, "What?"
Really?
Yes.
God.
He looked at him, and my dad's like, he's like, no, he's like, what are you talking about? And the guy's like, well, he's like, well, I'm playing like blah blah blah, and like I've got like solemn judgment, like you know, magic, like
Oh man.
like I've got solemn judgment, I've got fucking mirror force Raigeki, and I figured I'd smoke him out with the blue eyes at the end just for kicks. And my dad's just like, what? My
What the
dad's like,
hell are you talking about?
yeah, my dad is just like, no, no, I'm here with my kid. My kid is playing the card game. Like because the card game is for children. And and the guy is just like, oh, well, it was nice knowing you. Just walks off and my dad's just looking at like he's just looking at me. He's just like, maybe we shouldn't come here anymore. And yeah. And of course, I get beat by someone like, well, I mean, I didn't get beat by a 40-year-old, thank God. I don't think I played him. I ended up playing. But he did say hello to several people who were probably at least in college. Hopefully, they were in college.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I remember there was some other kid who was like probably around my age, but he was like but he was a dweeb, and not that I wasn't a dweeb, but he was dweebier than I was. And the kid like buys some fucking card. I don't know. Like I asked my dad to buy me like then I asked my dad to buy me like a Mirror Force or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, Dad, can you buy me this card, Mirror Force?" I think he has one in the case. So my dad's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll buy you a card." And he's like, and he goes to like Gary. And he's like, "Hey, how much is a?" He's like, "I'll get a Mirror Force for my son." He's like, "All right, that'll be $30." And my dad's like, "I will not get him anything." He's like, he's like, "How much is a pack?" And he's like, "That's $4." He's like, "He'll get a pack. He'll take a pack." And I was like, "But Dad, Mirror Force is like, no, no, no." No. He's like, I am not. He's like, no, we'll. He's like, if I'm spending $30, we're going to the diner and we're eating something. We're not. I'm not buying you a card. Are you insane? And like, and then and then the dweeby freaking kid who probably won. They usually knew how things worked. He probably won, and he like I guess his dad gave him the money to buy the card because he was probably like this kid is never getting laid, so I might as well like make him happy now before life shits on him forever. So he gives him money and he bought whatever card. I think he bought like a Swords of Revealing Light or something like that. And the guy was like, "Okay, thanks, $20." And then like he steps out of there and the kid hugs him. He's like, "I love you, Gary." And he's like, "Kid, don't touch me, okay?" It was a very like Trump, like some would say that experience was traumatic, but it ended up shaping me as a card game player forever, which probably makes it worse.
Well,
I I also kept going back to this place years later. But
We all did.
we all did. But yeah, over the years I bought I wasted a bunch of money at this place, but it was money it was wasted, but it was well wasted because I had fun. As I became an adult, it was more fun to like hang out there and just talk to the guy and just get to know him a bit. Um,
Yeah,
and
I
like
actually did see him.
he was a really cool dude, man.
hmm
Well, it still is,
Yeah,
but you know, he closed the store about he closed the store a
almost
couple of weeks
almost a year
ago.
ago.
No, he closed
Yeah,
the store a couple of weeks ago. Oh,
oh
you
wow.
saw him almost a
Oh,
year ago.
yeah, just before I left Brooklyn and came and moved away.
Yeah,
Bought
I
a
went down.
Magic Duel deck from him.
Oh, that's awesome.
nice.
Yeah, my
Since
last
said like
purchase.
goodbye, thanks for all the memories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was like, I'll miss the people." But yeah, I went. There wasn't much left in the store. People had already bought a bunch anyway, and like,
Yeah,
you know, him always being the salesman that he was, like, we took a picture outside. The guy, by the way, the guy has always looked like he was in his 60s. So he looked exactly
yeah,
the same. And like and we went into the card store, my friend Johnny and I, we went into the card store and we go into the stand one last time. It's so
Nice.
it's sad when it's really like sad when you know it's going to be the last time, but I
yeah.
don't know, is it worse
Yeah.
when you know it's going to be the last time or when you don't know? What's like cuz like let's say
It's
you don't know and then
when
you
you don't
find
know.
out.
It's definitely you don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Because remember Animation Odyssey?
I never went there.
You never
I
went
know
there.
you.
Even
No, I know you went there a lot. I never went to Animation Odyssey. It was on Coney Island,
um,
right?
yeah, it was on the. It was right across from Nathan's. After Sandy destroyed it, that was that.
Oh, I didn't know that's what happened to it. That
Shit.
sucks. It became like some shitty nightclub after,
Well, that's New York for you.
which that
Uh,
probably closed. It was probably an illegal nightclub. It probably didn't last very long.
It was probably the Russians.
It probably was owned by the Russian mafia. I remember like girls that I knew that were like 14 or 15 going in there, and I
Oh
was like
God.
posting on Facebook that they were going there, and I was like, well, that can't be legal.
No.
Like, and I guess I hope they had fun, and I hope it was safe, whatever it is that they did.
Well, I'm sure
And
it wasn't.
I hope, well, I just hope that no one wound up as a lampshade. That's all that I can
Well,
say about that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway, my last purchase from the stand was the 40 was the from the vault lore and the 25th anniversary box of spell ruler. I will never open any of those things, or
hmm
they sit there in my little happy corner shelf thing, whatever you want to call it, this contraption that the missus got me that holds up quite well with all of my things, and it's a good little happy corner. When you get married, you only get a corner for all the shit that you like. By the way, you don't you all like your man cave in your room that doesn't happen. You just that goes away. You're relegated to a corner, and if you better pick a good corner, one with lots of
yeah,
sunlight. Um, but I digress. I will never open these things. I don't know what's in there. Maybe they'll accrue value over time, but it's a nice memory to have. I might like print out I might print out the photo that we took with Gary and outside of the stand just to put it next to it and really give it like, a good little like memento. But
yeah.
yeah, there's just something but that store, it's amazing. Everybody that store had been around for such a long time that every time I had mentioned is like when I go to like a Magic pre-release, I use these specific sleeves that I bought from the stand, not because they're from the stand, but because they're really cool sleeves. But I only use them for the pre-releases.
Yeah.
And whenever someone sees it, they're always like, "Whoa, those are cool sleeves! Like, where'd you get them?" And I would say I got them from the stand, and like the response was always the same: was "Holy shit, that guy's still there!" And I was always like, "Yeah, he's still around." And he outlasted every single local game store ever. Even though
Yeah.
he wasn't even doing tournaments for years. Still, stores were closing left and right. This guy had he had like such a diversity of like collectible shit. And I'm sure he had like and I'm sure that the stuff in the store was like not his most prized collections. I'm sure he has several storage units and like like full of like the good shit, or like or
Yeah.
he has like or like maybe he had like a trap door or something for like reserved for the good things, or like the high expensive things. But
Mm-hmm.
he was just this guy was good at what he did. He always made money. I'm sure he traveled to like various conventions and stuff, or like different showrooms and auctions, and bought things and resold them and like things like that. And I'm sure he like figured it out. But this guy outlasted everybody. And like, I mean, even when we left, even when and he also like this guy knew what he was doing, to the point where like he owned the building. Like, it wasn't like a big building, but he owned it. And how many people can you say can like did that? How many card store owners could you say did that? He
Yeah.
owned that thing, and it had been bought, sold, and paid for years ago. So everything was profit for this guy. Like, he knew what he was doing,
Yeah.
and he made a good living. He made a lot of good memories and just lived a good life. When we went over there, he was just telling us all these like reminiscing memories of like the good old days when like he had all of these when like when his store was like where he had his like key players and everything, and they would enter all of the big tournaments, and they would play for the store, and they would play against other stores for other stores collectibles and things like that, and like just like like really great glory days,
Yeah.
um of just
Hmm.
what local game stores used to be like. um
Back in the
and
day, the good
yeah,
old days.
oh man. And it was just really cool to hear all that stuff.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, and then afterwards he's like telling my friend, he's like, well, I got some other stuff in my like up in the apartment if you want to just like see that and buy something else. And he's just like, I'm not going up to your apartment. That's kind of like, I feel kind of, that feels wrong to me to go up to your apartment before you leave this place forever, like, and like buy stuff from you. He's like, I'd rather. He's like, I bought what I bought. I'm fine. I don't need to see anything else. Just let me have the memory of the store and not
Yeah.
your apartment. Uh, I mean, he was just like, I'm not even living there anymore. He's like, I got the house. I'm not living there. He's like, it just has a bunch of like stuff in boxes that like you could sell. And he's like, I'm sure you do. I'm just let me just leave me with the store.
Yeah.
Um, but very cool guy, really great. I hope that he listens to this by accident somehow. Um, but Gary,
Yeah.
thank you for a lifetime of memories. We will we cherish every moment, and it was a lot of fun. And man, just you just they don't make local game stores like that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
But but yeah, what a great place, man. Um, anyway, back to Yu-Gi-Oh. Just,
I mean, I
just,
think
I
it's
think
have
we've kind of summed the bases up a little bit without getting
yeah.
way too into it. We're not going to sum up every single freaking meta game and everything. There's people who have made that on like YouTube videos, like just explaining the history of the meta game. It is a very convoluted game to play now. If you would first started, you
And there's
like
like a
you
metric
would.
shit ton of stuff you have to research first.
Yeah, if you wanna just get like a quick and dirty version of like how far the game has progressed, just look at the contents of just look at anything from the first 4 sets or the first 6 sets even, and then like I guess blue like Legend of Blue Eyes through Legacy of Darkness, and then go or Invasion of Chaos. I forget one of those two. Just go through that era, and then like look at any card from the set now. It doesn't even matter. It like you won't know if it's good or not. But just look at the most basic card from like look at what's considered the shittiest card in this set from the current set, and look at what was considered the best card of the older set, and you'll just be like, what the and that'll give you the best example. You'll just look at it and be like, what the hell is this?
Yep.
It's insane.
Yeah.
So apparently the pendulum summoning thing is actually pretty broken.
Yeah, how does that work? We're back to the pendulums, baby. The pendulum has swung the other way on this monster.
So I actually tried it out like a moment ago on Switch before the game actually crashed on me when I was actually about to see how awesome it actually was.
Oh, wait, the
So
game crashes because of how broken the game is?
no,
The broken
I
game
don't.
breaks the game?
Yeah.
Oh god.
So like when you play pendulum monsters as like spells, they're kind of like continuous spell cards, and like each one like has like a number. So like the one on the left has a 2, and the one I play on the right has a 7, and like one can say like your attack monsters get plus so and so, and the other ones can say like your monsters get like plus so and so defense. But then also you can do what's called pendulum summoning, which is you can summon as many cards in your hand as possible that have levels between those two numbers.
What?
And I was like, ooh, interesting.
So you could just throw everything down at once.
As long as you have two pendulum monsters like that have like the numbers like as long as the monsters in your hand are in between the two numbers of the monsters on the field.
Oh my god.
That at least that's kind of straightforward. But I haven't even gotten into anything that like how like the things affect each other. And like yeah, that's the one where you need like a magnifying glass to read like all the text on it because it has like 2 different brackets, like one for when it's on the field and one for when it's in the spell and trap zone.
That's crazy.
Jesus Christ. I don't even know. I don't even know. Like, how can they make the game more broken at this point? It's almost like that's the test for design. Is just how can we make it more broken?
Oh god, I want to see if I can figure out how the hell Link monsters work now.
I bet you that's. I bet you that's like probably the job. That's probably a question when you like interview for a job there. They're probably just like for like a design job. They're probably just like, how can we make the game more broken? And they're probably like, if you can't come up with a quick answer, you probably just don't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
That should
Let's
probably be
make
the
a new.
first. That's probably the first one. That is probably the first job interview question. Is just how can we break the game more?
Yep.
And I'm sure
Link.
all of the I'm sure all the kiss ass people who like probably have bullshit degrees from Harvard because their dad went there probably is just like, oh well, the game's not broken at all, and hopefully they don't get the job, but chances are their dad already called somebody and they already have the job. It's actually for the guy interviewing them's job. He doesn't know, so then the game just gets more broken. Gotta love nepotism, everybody.
Hooray.
Yep.
But anyway, the art of the cards is just, I mean, outside of like the manga itself and the show, the cards art is just, that's another thing that always drew me in was because of how cool it is and like all the borders and everything. Everything made the card game fun, like really cool, and it wasn't like unfriendly to a child's eye.
Right.
Because like you had the lighter palettes where like with Magic there were like a darker like it was a darker flavor to it for obvious reasons. Where like
Yeah.
with Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon it was more inviting to like kids, but Yu-Gi-Oh was like Pokemon was very cutesy, obviously. Magic was a little bit like too like dark. So if you're in the middle of like being like a 10-year-old kid and you're like, what do I play? Yu-Gi-Oh is like perfect in the middle because like you're coming of age, so you know you're not really into the cutesy stuff, but maybe you're not ready for like the darkest stuff. Where like this is perfect.
Right.
And also like just Pot of Greed has the coolest looking art. Like I feel like that would be a sick tattoo. Just the Pot of Greed
Yeah.
art.
Yeah.
I won't do it, but I'm sure someone else has that out there.
Oh, absolutely.
I
That's
am
gotta be.
sure that someone has a Pot of Greed tattoo, and they've probably never been in a relationship. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of them. They're pretty cool tattoos, but you know they're not getting laid. They're
Nope.
just not. They're
Yeah.
just not. I'm sorry. I'm sure they're nice people, but it's not happening. Or at least it was until they got this, and then it never happened again. This is a really cool tattoo, though. But I won't be getting that. Someone else, some other poor son of a bitch will. And they won't know any better. And that's too bad. But
Well,
So I'm actually looking
on
at the
that
link
note,
monster.
so yes, how does the link monster work?
I'm still trying to friggin' figure it out because like, it doesn't actually have its own structure deck built into the game because like it gives you all kinds of different recipes for like different decks, and I actually couldn't find one for Link ones unless I'm being stupid. But again, still looking at them, they make absolutely no sense. So like in like each corner of like the art on the card and like on like the middle left and middle right, yeah, there's like eight arrows, and they have no defense points. It just says like Link and like a number. It could be like 1, 2, or 3. I don't know what that means yet. And I actually can't even make any heads or tails of it yet. Because why the hell wouldn't they make it like this at this point?
I have no idea.
They're like a shimmery like blue, and they do look cool, but they just look way more complicated than they need to be. But as soon as I find the deck recipe, I will torture myself with how awful and broken that this is. Let's see.
Wait.
Link.
I can't wait till you tell me. There is another game that you said was like really cool that they released recently where you could play where you can like relive like some of the duels from the show.
Oh,
it's also on the Switch, and I don't know what other. It's probably on a few consoles.
there was
it's mostly just like little like visual things like side scrolling things in an RPG that just tell a little bit of the story in between the actual card games.
That's cool, and like you don't have to like play online against people who know what they're doing or anything, right? Like it's just
No,
you. You just do
no,
a solo campaign. Oh, that's good.
yeah,
So maybe like so I guess it's maybe like Forbidden Memories, but with like real rules. Probably closer to what
I
that would
guess I
be.
guess you could say
that
that.
was kind of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! The Championship Edition for the Game Boy Advance was kind of that. It followed like the Battle City arc in the anime, but it was like real rules, so it wasn't like just polymerize all these cards together to make a new monster.
Yeah.
So that was kind of that was a good one.
Yeah, it's called Legacy of the Duelist. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, okay, I've seen that one.
Yeah,
Oh
and they've
yeah, yeah.
recently added the one that's called Link Evolution, which is just it just adds all the DLC. It's like $40 right now. Or at least it's on sale for like $40. I
Oh,
considered it, but
oh
like
yeah,
I might
yeah.
wait for
I
like
am
the
playing
sale for it
Link
to go
Evolution.
down. Yeah, I might go down. I might wait for it to go down to like 25 or something like that. Or if I get like if I get like a Visa or something for like $25 for like a holiday or something, then I'll probably consider using it then. But it seems like it would scratch the itch without me having to like go to a store or anything. And I think you can use
Yeah,
like I think you can use like every card in the game up to that point, which is probably more than enough. And maybe like you don't have to like do every broken thing in modern stuff in this game. I'd like to check it out, but I'm just not at
Yeah.
$40.
Yeah.
all right. So it turns out I just probably haven't unlocked the deck recipe yet for that because I don't even know what's after like the fourth season after like the dueling on motorcycles and shit, and like the guy's got like some
Wait, did you talk
AI
about the
ghost
show
thing in
now?
his brain.
You're talking about the show now?
No, I was just saying like how it's I haven't unlocked the recipe for the link structure deck because it's probably in like in the series I haven't played yet.
Oh, okay. They're dueling on motorcycles now.
No, that was just the third.
That was
That was
in the
just the
show,
third.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. Well, anyway. On that note, do we have anything else to say about this card game other than that it's very convoluted, but it's been going on for 25 years. A ton of people still play it, and it keeps getting more and more convoluted as the day is long.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
My,
a fun game if you're play like I'll go back to like Forbidden Memories and shit like that and play that. But to actually play the real game, I'm like I'm too far gone from it, you know? It's like it's not going to work anymore.
yeah.
I just do
If
not have the time or money to invest into this, and for God's sakes, I already play Magic. I don't need to play another card game.
there's also that.
And even
So,
Magic
but yeah,
doesn't
if
pay
you
as much
want
as
to,
it used to.
if you want to just like try it just to scratch the itch, maybe get like two like random structure decks from like Walmart on sale, or just get the Switch game
Yeah,
because
that might be the best bet.
either you like it or you won't.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
like
also the
you
other thing
don't
that I
want to
wanted
waste a lot of money on it.
Yeah, the other thing that I meant to say when you mentioned the structure deck Pegasus, Rob, is that like, and I'm pretty sure we said this on the show, one of the previous, like the last episode, but like when you bought the Pegasus, like the Joey structure deck came out at the same time as the Pegasus one, and everyone went to the store and they bought the Pegasus deck because they just saw the Toon World and Relinquish and everything on the anime, and they expected the deck to do the same thing and to be like as crazy, and the Toon and like Pegasus's structure deck was total dog shit. Like you couldn't use Toon World without dying, basically. It
Yeah.
was like, and then meanwhile, the Joey structure deck was like fairly competitive. Like people could take it out of the box at like a local game store tournament and like not win but do okay. So like after that, everyone wanted the Joey deck. But that's all
Oh
I have to
yeah, I
say
remember
about
those.
that. Yeah, those original structure decks were really cool.
For
But yeah,
shits and giggles, after I moved down here, I actually got three Crystal Beast structure decks because like it said
what
like
is the
you can
Crystal
actually make
Beast?
um it's meant for summoning a rainbow dragon. It's like 4,000 attack and defense. It has like all kinds of crazy effects, but the way it works is like it has like seven different monsters in like its own meta, and like whenever they have like some effects, but whenever they get destroyed, instead of going to the graveyard, you can put them in the spell and trap card zone as continuous spells. And
Oh
then
wow, that's
if you
pretty
have
cool.
like a if you have a field spell card that like does different things based on how many there are, and if you have all seven of them like on your field in the graveyard, you can just special summon Rainbow Dragon and all kinds of other crazy shit.
Huh. Cool.
But it's actually like not a great deck now. It's just like more of like a fun thing because that's also a deck that you can use with the like the actual version of like like the Rod God card, I think.
Okay. Which the Egyptian god cards never really found a proper home. I think people tried, but there wasn't enough support around it for them
It
to be
became
like
more
very
too
good.
much of a gimmick, I think, because it was just trying to keep up with the show, basically.
Yeah.
It just happened to find its place because it revolved because like, you special summon like a it was a Haman, right? And you can only special summon it by sending 3 continuous spell cards on your field to the graveyard, and all your crystal beasts turn to continuous spell cards.
Hmm.
So it just happens to work in there.
That's pretty nuts, but very cool. All right, I got nothing else to say about this because we've kept the people here for too long, and I think they all like want us to die. No, they don't want they don't want us to die, but they definitely want us to like to get off the air because they have lives to get to.
They want us to go down in a Ponzi scheme.
No, they don't. No, they don't. But I want some of them. But some of them should definitely go down in Ponzi schemes. Some of them are committing Ponzi schemes right now. But what can you do?
Yep.
This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Thank you everybody for sitting here and listening to us ramble about this for 2 episodes. It's been a lot of fun reliving our childhood like it always is, and we hope that you got to relive some of your childhood too. We hope that you're sitting there going, "Oh man, I had the sweetest Exodia deck," or "Oh, I used to Yada Luck everybody." That's not how it worked, but and like maybe you can show me if you knew exactly how this thing worked, anything that we got wrong with this stuff because we didn't do enough research because we're trying from memory because that's how we roll, and only 3 people listened anyway. We picked up somebody else who probably is not subscribed to the channel anymore now, but they decided not to on this episode. They just listened to it and they were like, you know what, I'm not going to subscribe to these guys anymore. And they went and did something else. But if you stuck around, thank you so much. We really appreciate each and one of you. Thank you very much, Shaun, for coming on the show.
Not a problem. Happy to be here.
Yes, and just giving and providing us with your damn good ham. And that's about it. Thanks, everybody.
I actually found the MP3 player with that on it. I had to figure out how to get it off.
Oh, good God. The damn good ham was something that we said at a youth group that we were once a part of. And it was like some weird potluck thing.
And my dad made damn good ham.
Yes, his dad made ham. It was damn good. And instead of just saying, "Wow, this is very good food," we made this. There was this giant Monty Python chorus of saying, "I say, sir, this is damn good ham," and other people started repeating, like other people next to us started repeating "damn good ham" in the Monty Python voice.
Oh no!
And it became its own like odd little like meme.
Oh,
And
I
it is
can't
still
believe that.
circulated
I
to this
remember that.
day. Yes, it is still circulated to this day. People were leaving saying "damn good ham." This wasn't like just between like the youth group members, not the adults. It would have been amazing if this spread to the adults.
It's on a MP3 player powered by a AA battery from I think about 2001.
Yeah.
I have no idea if it still works or if there's even a plug for it, but I am determined to get those audio files off of that MP3 player.
Oh my God.
Well, Godspeed, Shaun. Godspeed.
Yeah. Good luck.
This has been Why Does This Exist? I have been Chris.
I've been Rob.
I've been Shaun.
And remember, question everything.
Good night, everybody.
Later.